Hi everybody, working on my 22R turbo EFI engine, and we're doing a complete engine pull here. We're going to put in a new 22R, and so I'm going to walk you step by step through what we need to do. First things first, we took out the radiator and all the hoses. This will make room for the engine to come out. Also disassembled the battery and moved it to the side. That way it's out of the way, and so we don't run the battery as well. Also moved the air intakes and hoses. As you can see, they're right here behind me. Putting them aside, there's the radiator, the hoses, and the fan shroud's actually right behind it. So you know what those look like. Once you remove the radiator and fan, next you can disconnect the rotor and take off this plug. The other plugs don't matter because they just go to the spark plugs, and just set them over here to the side. Like I said, you can leave the rest of these plugged in. They're going to be part of the engine. You don't have to remove the rotor. Usually that comes with the new engine, or you can take it off after the engine is pulled. The next thing you'll need to do is come and remove this foot panel here on the passenger side. It just has some clips that hold it in place, and then there's a tab back here that goes behind this to access this computer panel. There are 3 bolts in this, 10 millimeters on my truck, and once you remove those, then this computer panel should be able to come out. Like this. And here at the bottom you have all the wire harnesses, and you'll unplug those wire harnesses. When you unplug the harnesses, you'll see there are 3 different sizes, so you don't really need to label them to be able to know where they go into the computer. They just snap back on, so you can just take this completely off, set it on your floor, and then we're going to feed that wire harness up through the firewall and back through to the engine. There are a few other clips in here that you'll need to undo as well. You have to undo this one and this one that are connected to that wire harness. You simply do that by pushing this little tab right here, and then you can slide that out. I'll probably have to use 2 hands, so I might have to do it off camera. Connected here, so now you can see that all the plugs are off. This wire harness is free, and I'll be able to slide that up and through that firewall right there and into the main engine. So on this side, coming through the firewall, you have this sill. It's easy just to kind of push off, and then you can get your finger back behind it. You can pull it back through, and then that wire harness will come straight through, straight out. Okay, take those wires out. Once you have that out, make sure you unwrap it from all the other wires. One more here that you have to disconnect. And once that's disconnected, you can take this wire harness, set it up on your engine, and it's good and ready. And we're getting closer. Alright, once you get your wire harness removed, there's also one more wire here that you'll want to disconnect. And this runs right here. And then there's some vacuum hoses that we'll need to disconnect from the cylinders as well. So this one, and then there's another one down in here that we'll need to disconnect as well. And then the last thing we'll want to do right here, while we're right here, is our negative wire that goes to our battery. Follow it down here, and there will be a bolt on it, and we'll remove it as well. Alright, I'm also unhooking the power steering, which is this guy right here. It comes in, you can undo this hose, and we're going to take off this heater core here, and then also, you see it under here, we're going to take this out. This one hooks the power steering pump. And then a little trick that I use, this is my beautiful wife's nail polish, and I'll actually take it and just put a mark where things go. So this is coming out of here, so I'll just put a mark on both those, so when I put it back in, I'll know that those 2 go together. The same with down here, and as you can already see, I colored the inside of the plug with this, so I know that those come apart, because there are a few that look very similar. So just make sure that you're labeling and marking things as you take them apart so you know where they go, because it might be a few days or even a few weeks before you get another engine back in. The only thing I would say not to worry about is the wire harness, because they are different sizes and it's pretty easy to determine which one goes where when you plug them back into the computer. So basically we're unhooking all the hoses that go to the motor from the external portions of the truck, so that when we pull the motor out, we'll be able to move all the wires over to the new motor a lot easier. We don't have to take off the airflow for the turbo or a lot of the internal wiring like the rotor. We only took the center one off the rotor. The rest go to the spark plugs, so we can leave those on. We'll be replacing those eventually anyway. So you can just leave them there. Kind of helps keep everything a little cleaner when you're pulling it out. Once you get these three off, and you want to be careful with this one, just because it's a flexible hose, you don't want to rip it right here at the where it tees out. So just make sure that you're careful and wiggle it back and forth before you pull that out. You can see there are a few wires here. There's this, and then there's this wire harness right back here that all connect to the engine. If you follow it up here, it comes up to this plug right here. I would recommend just disconnecting it here and then popping this open and disconnecting this. That's what I'm going to do now. This box is a little tricky to open, so be careful when you do it, and I'll show you when I get it open what it looks like. Alright, so you'll notice to get this open, there's a little thing right here you have to lift. I just use this really small screwdriver to get in there and pop that open. And then the same with this, you actually just push right here on this, and it snaps down into here on this. So if you just push against this, or you can put a screwdriver in there and just kind of pry it, and then it'll pop open. And then once you do that, you can undo this bolt right here, and that'll free up the wire harness so that you can lay it over here on the engine. Next, we're going to remove the fan blades, and we do that by taking these 4 bolts off right down here. They're 10mm on the R22 engine, and you have to, this free spins, so you have to wedge something in here so it doesn't spin anymore. I just use a long screwdriver to do it. Alright, down in here we have the motor mounts, and we're going to be removing them. There are 4 bolts. You can see right here, I have my wrench on one of them, and then the other one is right here on this side, so that's 2 of them down in there. And then the other 2, they're a little easier to see and get to. I'll take you right down here so you can see them. So that bolt right there is the other one, and directly on the other side of that is the 4th one. So pretty easy to get to once everything's out of the way. We'll take those out, and then we're going to be pretty close to pulling this engine out. The next thing we're going to do is actually down underneath the engine, over here under the driver's side. We have the exhaust manifold coming into the exhaust pipe. It's 3 bolts, as you can see here. The 3rd one's right there. So we'll undo those, and we'll drop down the exhaust pipe here, and we'll let it rest on this bar. And once that's done, we'll block up the transmission as well and start taking out those bolts. Alright, last but not least, down underneath the transmission, there are going to be 4 bolts right here. Here's the first one. The second one I already took out. Here's the hole for it. I wanted you to be able to see the next 2 bolts, which is here, and then up in there. Those are the top ones. There's another one there, and then another hole here I took out so you could see the next one. So there are these 4 lower bolts, and then there's some higher bolts. These higher bolts are 17 mils, and these lower ones are 14. And you have to take them out so that we can get the engine block off. Just getting a picture of these wires. Fitting. They need to come undone. Where they all go. and connect to. I want to quickly point out two things that I didn't talk about earlier. So this hose needs to be undone, and the easiest way to undo it is actually to come through the wheel well, so that you can reach it. There are a bunch of wire harnesses and plugs right back here too. You can see them right here. I've already unplugged them. That you'll have to undo. This is on the passenger side, and you'll have to undo this hose. And then once that's done, there are actually two more bolts on the transmission that you have to access from the top. I'll try to show those as well. So you can see it right down there, and the easiest way to get to it, it's a 17 mil. The easiest way to get to it is from the top. Once all those hoses and everything are removed, you can go right down through here, throw a 17 mil wrench on it, and wrench it out. Same with the one on the other side. Move around so you can see it as well. Easiest way to access it is right through here, and I've already taken it out, but it's right down through there. Alright, so I wanted to point those out so you know they're there. So there are 4 main bolts, 17 mil on the transmission, and then 4 lower ones as well that are 14 mils. Just want to point all those out. So we're ready to pull this engine now. I'm going to hook up the engine hoist and get it ready to roll, and we'll talk about pulling it as we do it as well. As you can see, I did unhook a few of these hoses here at the top as well. You want as much room as possible, so I'll probably remove this one as well here in just a minute, and then we'll be ready to pull it. Alright, we're ready to pull this bad boy. So what we did here, rigged up the chain through there, and then we actually had to put a bolt in back here. We just went straight into straight through the chain into the engine, and it's a 13 mil bolt, M8, and hooked that right in. Now we're just starting to put some pressure on to lift this up. We also put a jack under the transmission and took the pressure off of it, so it's all sitting on the jack. Alright, you can see got it out, and this is what we look like now. So got it up on the hoist here, looking pretty good. As you can see, we had to pull it out this way. The engine was seized, so we couldn't leave the torque converter, so we had to take it with us. And so now I'm just gonna cover this and have the engine over here, and I'll start ripping it down and cleaning it up, and we'll take everything and put it onto the new engine, which actually hasn't arrived yet, but when it arrives we'll pull it all over, and I'll show you how to put everything onto the new engine and how to get this thing back in and running. I'm very excited. It's a pretty easy pull. Only took a few minutes to actually get the engine out. Once we got the hoist on, it broke loose and came right out. So it was really nice that way. I'm going to clean up the engine bay. You can see there's a lot of grime and stuff around, so I'll clean everything up and make it look a lot better, so that once we put the new engine in, we're looking pretty good inside here. And I'll take before and afters of that. So here's the before. Alright, this will be the end of this video. Next video will show how to swap everything over onto the new engine, and then a third and final video, part 3, will be how to replace the engine, put it in, and put everything back into place. Hope you enjoyed this video, and looking forward to working with you guys more. Feel free to leave any comments in the comments below and ask any questions. I'll try to answer them. Hope this was informative and useful, and you guys have a good time. Good luck.